All right, so we want to jump right into this thing since we are running a bit behind schedule. Thank you everybody for being here, both here live and those online. Today we're going to talk about an extremely important issue that everybody is aware of in some capacity, but not enough people are talking about. So I'm going to share. I'm going to share this flyer twice, one at the beginning and one at the end of the presentation. So this is what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about what's happening in this country right now and how it's going to affect the Black community, grassroots communities, poor people of all colors. Our community being the primary focus because we focus on the Black community first, but this thing is going to affect a lot of people. So I'm going to show a brief video clip of a show called Democracy Now! That's been around forever. They do excellent coverage of international news, and it's a direct tie-in to what we're seeing happening right now in America and what's happening, how it's going to affect communities nationwide. So as I said before, as I say every Thursday morning, the Go for Care Alliance is about identifying resources that we already have in the community, connecting those resources with the people so that the people will have more of what they need to move forward. Our nonprofits that are Black and or brown led, Black and or brown focused, they're going to become increasingly important because despite the times that we live in, the needs of the people are going to remain the same for a while. But if the government is cutting back on funding, how would those nonprofits survive and how will the community get that support? So that's one of many things that we have to talk about, we have to discuss. So what we try to do in the Grow for Care Alliance is, again, be the bridge between the two to make sure that what is happening is known by the people so that the people can benefit from it. There's a lot of good that goes on in the greater Houston area, but for whatever reason, that good doesn't always reach those persons that need it most in their lives. So we try to be the bridge in between the two. And this event on this flyer, we're going to talk about later, but that's what we're talking about. As it says at the bottom, excuse me, as government turns its back, because that's what's happening, what must we prepare for, we being the Black and grassroots communities? So I'm going to share my screen again with a video that we're going to watch really quickly. And then I'll come back and talk about the importance of the video and why we're having this event. So give me a quick point to question here, I'm going to share, and why we're having this video. So then I'll come back and talk. Point to question here, I'm going to share. And why
I mean, I might have something to say about the Patriot question later, but I think that first, I think it's helpful to kind of dispel some of the fog of war and the sort of chaotic, anarchistic impressions that we're getting out of Washington these days, with a sense of what the actual lineages are of the political Washington these days, with a sense of what the actual lineages are of the political Washington these days.
Share, here, minimize that. Right. Okay, you don't have sound there. Boom, 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 boom. Why is there no sound? Why is there no sound?
Political projects underway here that haven't really had the chance to weave together. They had the space close to power the way that they haven't had the chance in the path together. They had the space close to power the way that
Fix it. Go back here.
bureaucracy to the same kind of
All right, let's try this one more time. There we go.
Trump says when questioned about it, because court papers came out that indicated he didn't, he just said, well, what counts is he's a patriot.
Yeah, I mean, I might have something to say about the Patriot question later, but I think that first, I think it's helpful to kind of dispel some of the fog of war and the sort of chaotic, anarchistic impressions that we're getting out of Washington these days, with a sense of what the actual lineages are of the political projects we're seeing unfolding here. Because I think, and what I wrote about in the piece is, I think there's basically three somewhat distinct political projects underway here that haven't really had the chance to weave together and have the space close to power the way that they have now in the past. The first one is the idea that the government should be run like a corporation, right? There's a kind of a core Clintonite notion here that we should treat citizens like consumers. We should, expose bureaucracy to the same kind of competitive pressures and kind of hallmarking and benchmarking that private companies are. And then you have to go in and sort of act like an asset stripping private equity firm and peel out all the waste and abuse and put back in sort of more efficient processes. That's how Musk sold Doge to the American people in late 2024. And that's actually why even some Democrats were on board with the Doge caucus already in December still. So there's something kind of normal about that. And there's a reason why Musk has been posting pictures of Clinton and Gore saying, hey, I'm just doing that sort of business here. But obviously, things have gone to another level. And the second, I think, strain of politics that's plugged in here is closer to that of Russell Vought at the Office of the Management of Budget, one of the people who was critical to the Project 2025 document. And that is a more often Christian conservative sort of think tank vision of deconstructing the administrative state, not to make it more efficient and to cost cut to get to more efficiency and sort of productivity, but because you think certain things that the government has been doing are fundamentally illegitimate. So there should be no kind of redistributive role for the government. There should be no role covering things like the protection of the environment or the provision of special education or the provision of sort of projects towards gender equity, anti-racism, and things of that nature. So the idea there is you permanently sort of hobble the Leviathan of the state and, hack back some of its capacity, send that back to the states and produce a government that governs intensively but not extensively. So, border, military budget, maybe federal abortion bans, but all the other sort of post-civil rights, Great Society programs get sort of permanently euthanized. The third strain, though, that sort of gets to some of the more extreme dynamics that people have been picking up on is what I think you can call right-wing accelerationism. So this is a kind of very online ideology, often associated with people like Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land. And there the idea is that you don't just sort of trim the state or kind of streamline it, but you shatter it all together. And so there's a vision of total decentralization of sovereignty back to smaller kind of fortified private enclaves, turning the United States into a kind of a patchwork of fiefdoms or sovcorps, as Yarvin calls them, where people are sort of, opting in, paying to get into gated communities, and then sort of in zero-sum social Darwinist competition with the world beyond them. And that's quite sci-fi and kind of speculative. But at times, I think that the sort of sense of panic that we feel is people wondering whether you can just delete all of the kind of capacities of the state and expect to be able to plug them back in at any level afterwards, or if there is a kind of irreversible process of dismantlement happening here.
And so
I hope everybody was able to see that video. For whatever reason, our audio wasn't working here, but I was able to share the screen. So the three things that the gentleman mentioned is what we want to focus on primarily, with the primary focus being on the last thing that he mentioned. So there is most certainly a restructuring of American society happening right now. Programs are being cut. The departments are being extremely scaled back and or completely done away with. The social safety net, from Medicare to Social Security to programs that people need to eat, be educated, move forward in life, all that stuff is being cut. And it's being cut because those in power understand that in order for America to continue moving forward, they have to do something about this debt because it's too high. Just paying the interest alone is too much. So they have to restructure, reset the economic and financial system of the country that will allow them to do certain things moving forward. And the last thing the gentleman said, which is what we want to focus on this morning, is America getting away from a government that takes care of the people and chops the country up to be ran like little fiefdoms, where if you have the money, you pay the community to live in that space, and then everything you need, to survive will be provided to you within that space. If you've seen The Handmaid's Tale, that's what they're talking about. Being able to be controlled by corporations. And most people don't understand what's happening with the tariffs. Most people don't understand what's happening with manufacturing. Most people don't understand how their physical labor is a commodity for big corporations, and they want to control your physical labor. Most people think that manufacturing in the United States is going to be a reality by which you can get paid high five, low sixes, a huge salary, and have a life that's a good life. That's what most people think, especially those that live in rural America and voted for Trump. They don't understand that the kind of reality that's being created will be one by which you're going to get paid an extremely low wage. You're going to exist in housing that's owned by the corporation. You're going to get certain benefits that are provided to you by the corporation. You are going to shop at businesses that are owned by the corporation or that exist on corporate land. And whatever your meager earnings are going to be, because you got to shop to get stuff that you need for you and your family, that money is going to go back to the corporation. So everything is going to revolve around what the corporations control. And the last statement the gentleman made was about that kind of reality that's currently being built, being created in America. And that's what we want to focus on this morning. Understanding what's coming, understanding why certain things are happening right now, so that we, grassroots Black people, grassroots people of other colors, other ethnicities, so that we can do what we need to do in our space. They can do what they need to do in their space as we show them how to do this, so that we can come out of this thing not being a slave to a corporation, but running certain spaces as we deem fit, as we deem necessary, as we deem appropriate. So we're having this 2-day conference, the last Friday, the last Saturday of this month. The first event will be an online viewing of the movie Leave the World Behind. If you have not seen it, I suggest you watch it. It is an excellent movie about, I'll say, paying attention to what's happening, reading the writing on the wall, and being prepared for what's coming. Excellent movie. So if you haven't seen it, if you have Netflix, watch it. If you haven't seen it and you don't have Netflix, we're going to watch it as a collective online the last Friday of this month, which is April 25th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 Eastern. That's the first thing we're going to do with this 2-day conference. The next day, that Saturday, we're going to come in from 9:30 to, I think, 6:30. We're going to have six segments of the conference talking about different things. And then you can see at the very bottom, I'm going to zoom in. At the very bottom of the flyer, this is what we're dealing with. As it relates to what the gentleman just said on the video, as it relates to what I just said, and everything, if you're watching online, or if you want more information about proving what I'm talking about, then respond in the thread on Facebook. Send me a text, send me an email, message me on Facebook, whatever you need to do. If you need for me to prove to you what the gentleman just said and what I'm saying now, that's not a problem. That's not a problem because evidence are all over the place. As far as it relates to what he just said and what I just said and what's coming. most people don't know what's coming because they don't see the big picture. They're not paying attention at all, and they're most certainly not connecting the dots. So we're going to focus on a few things. And the good thing about the Grow for Care Alliance, Black Go Nation, my parent organization, is that focusing on this kind of stuff is what we do, period. It's what I've been doing since I started Black Go Nation in 2016. And it's what I've been doing as a member of the Shrines of the Black Madonna for the 20 plus years prior to that. So we already have national leadership in place. We're already developing think tanks. Because one thing I've been trying to get Black people to realize since February of last year, Project 2025, not only is it real, and everything they said they were going to do, they're now doing now in real time. But the only reason they're able to do that is because they have think tanks. They have white people being paid to think about white power, white dominance, white control. We don't have a Black equivalent. But Black Go Nation, the Grow for Care Alliance, we've been working on putting that Black think tank in place because we need our own people who are thinking about our own power, our own survival. So the good thing about what we have is that we've already been working on this for a very long time. So at the conference on the Saturday after we watched the movie on Friday, and there is one key scene that I'm going to focus on from Friday on Saturday, because that one key scene it kind of encapsulates all the stuff that we got to do. So the first two, food sovereignty, security, and water supply security. We got to be able to feed ourselves, period. There are enough people in predominantly Black and brown spaces in the greater Houston area that are already growing food. We're not trying to reinvent any wheels. We're not trying to compete against anybody's wheel. We need to connect with people who are already growing stuff so that we can ask ourselves the critical question, then answer that question: how can we create a network of food that's already being grown by which we can benefit from? So the first part of the conference, we're going to focus on the food. The second part of the conference, we're going to focus on spirituality and right cultural development. And we say right culture because there can most certainly be wrong culture. So we have to understand that our superpower as melanated African descendants, our superpower is our spirituality. We are a naturally spiritual people, and we don't even know it. We don't understand that the things that we do, that the world follows, we're able to do because we are a naturally spiritual people. And spirituality is not the same thing as religion. Two separate things. And our people are extremely religious, and because of that, we are indoctrinated to do and not do certain things. Spirituality is above religion. Spirituality comes from the creator, cosmos, the universe, the ancestors. Religion is man-made, and we got to understand the difference. So the second part of the conference is going to be, the second and third parts are going to be dealing with understanding our spirituality and connectivity, and then developing a culture that's going to be pro-Black. Pro-Black in that it has to be pro our survival. We can't plug into a system that's created by somebody else. What I call it this, but I didn't dub it. If you guys remember the group, who's that group made this song? It made a song called Tennessee. I can't remember the name of the group, but anyway, the lead rapper's name is Speech. He coined the term nigga factory. We can't afford to plug into somebody else's nigga factory. We can't afford to plug into somebody else's system of creating the kind of people that they want us to be, as opposed to the kind of people that we need to be. So we got to understand spirituality, and we got to develop a culture that's pro-Black. We have to make sure that our youth are being raised in the fashion that will allow them to understand the reality of what it means to be Black in this country, around this world, and on this planet. I don't care about what other people get, what other people are rewarded with, what other people are allowed to do. For us, melanated African descendants is different because we are melanated African descendants. Everything for us is different. The rules are different. The justice is different. The opportunity is different. So we have to go get what we want, which we can, but you can't do that if your thinking isn't a certain way. And if our children are only raised to be employees of the system, to be a battery in this matrix, then that's what they're going to be. So as we are focusing on our own food security, our own water supply, our own spiritual development, a culture that's pro-Black, Our children have to be raised in an environment by which what we do as adults, they are prepared or being prepared to take over and move forward. With that, we got to have a better understanding of business in the community. Not only business globally, because that's important too, or business statewide, that's important too, but locally. We always hear about how much money flows through the Black community, but we rarely, if ever, hear about, okay, how can we stop some of that money from flowing through? And how do we keep it for ourselves? What most of us have yet to realize is that the only reason hundreds of millions of dollars flow through the Black community is because Black people give that money away freely. And I understand why we give it away, because we got to shop somewhere. We got to buy our groceries from somewhere. We got to pay our cell phone bills somewhere. So it's one thing to say shop Black. It's something entirely different if the Black don't exist. So we have to create the Black by which our people can shop, and then we can go from there. But to do that, you have to have an understanding of business, an understanding of our people, an understanding of mobilization, organization, and connectivity. There's a lot that goes into that business component, because the money isn't the issue. The issue is the mentality of the people who are giving their money away. And if we don't focus on, which goes back to the cultural development and the spiritual development, if we don't get our people, and I'm not talking about everybody, because it'll never be everybody. It's never been everybody. I'm talking about a percentage of our people. If we don't get a percentage of our people to think differently, which in turn means that they will act differently, then we'll continue to get what we've been getting, and we're going to continue to lose. And right now with this administration, losing has never really been an option. But with this administration, because so many things are happening so rapidly, if we don't put something in place that's going to protect our melanin, mentally, physically, spiritually, ethically, morally, if we don't put something in place to protect our melanin, then we're going to find ourselves in a position of becoming a permanent underclass in this country forever, I believe. America is creating caste systems, which is another thing the gentleman talked about in the interview. A caste system like in other countries, like India. If you're born poor, you're going to die poor, because there are no opportunities for you to not be poor, because the system is what it is. That's what America is moving toward. And if you don't understand that, you will go about your day thinking everything is fine, everything is going to get better. Trump is going to run his term, he's going to be out of office, but that's not what's happening. There is a restructuring of power happening right now. There's a restructuring of the system happening right now. There is a new way of thinking that's being implemented in this country right now, and that new way of thinking, that restructuring, is not pro-Black at all. So if we don't understand business at a fundamental level, and we don't understand how to capture a good percentage, 35, 40, 45% of the money that flows through our communities, if we don't understand that we got to have our own businesses to do stuff, then we're simply not going to make it. I was at a super neighborhood meeting this past Monday. What was Monday, wasn't it? Monday? This past Monday. And they were talking about a park that they've been trying to get money for 17 years. And the only reason they haven't gotten the call it that. Name of the park? Yeah. Hold on. What's the name of the park? Yeah. Edgewood Park in Sunnyside? Oh. In South Park. Edgewood Park in South Park. That park has been slated for upgrade for over 17 years. And they're still fighting to get the money that they were promised, but they haven't gotten it because of local leadership of the district, city council persons who are supposed to be in charge of the district to help the district move forward, and the mayor's office. For whatever reason, that's fallen through the cracks. District D, specifically, District D. D is in David. So leadership is important. But if you don't understand the importance of that leadership, and more importantly, you don't have an economic base to get done what you need to be done, what you want to be done, is simply not going to happen. And there was a gentleman in the back of the room who said to everybody in the room, if the money from this entity called TERS, T-I-R-Z, TERS. Yeah, TERS. If I'm not sure if TERS or tears, but if the money is not getting to us that's supposed to come from the tourists, if that's the reality, then we need to create our own tourists. And I agree with that sentiment. And I can tell by the energy in the room that most people are like, whatever. But we can't afford to think that way. We have to, because we are Black, because our history is what it is, because we're always treated differently, we got to do both. We have to have leadership that's going to look out for the people. We have to hold the mayor's office accountable. We have to ensure that if our people in this space are also paying taxes, then why aren't we getting the benefits of those taxes? But but along with those things, we have to also simultaneously have our own tours, if you will. So we can't afford to do any one thing. We got to do multiple things at the same time simultaneously, because our history is what it is and our reality is what it is. So if we don't understand that, the business side of that, the development side of that, the leadership side of that, if we don't do that, then we're going to continue to lose. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then the last two things, the think tanks and the political mobilization organization. I'll start with the political mobilization organization because I just got finished talking about politics. We have to understand that if like Brother Marcus Garvey said, if we're the majority in a given space, then we need to be running that space. We have a digital magazine that we produce every Tuesday. This past Tuesday was our 7th edition. And in that magazine, I have a section where I write about, it's titled In Remembrance Of. And in this issue, it's in remembrance of Lowndes County Political Organization. Most people don't even know what that is. But Lowndes County Political Organization was the precursor to the Black Panthers. And this was a group of Black people in Lowndes County, Mississippi, that came to the awesome conclusion that if we are the majority in this county, and they were 80+%, if we're the majority in this county, then we need to be running this county. So once they had that realization and they came to the Black reality of the Democrat Party is not going to allow us to do what we need to do to move our people and our community forward. So they realized that they need to create their own independent party, which is what they did. Unfortunately, they got scooped up by the Democrat Party, and we have yet to go back to that, but that's something we got to get back to. They did well in understanding if we're the majority, we need to be running it, but where they fell short was that they didn't understand the economics of politics, because white people ran all the businesses. So what we're saying in 2025 moving forward is that we have to take a page out of the book of those brothers and sisters who started the Lowndes County Political Organization, and understand that if we're the majority in a space, be it a precinct, be it a district, be it a city, if we're the majority, then we need to be running that space for the betterment of our people. Because if we don't run that space as it relates to making our people bigger, better, and stronger, someone else will, and we already know what that's going to look like. That's our current reality. Other people run it, and that running becomes an agenda that other people have as it relates to the agenda that we need. And that's always going to be the case if we don't have our own people that are in charge in it. And let me be clear, I do not mean people who are just blessed with melanin. We have to understand that just because a person looks like us, does not mean that they are going to look out for us. We got to understand that we're not all the same. For us in my organization, when we use the term Black, we're saying two things: that person is phenotypically Black, they've been blessed with melanin, and they think Black, which means they're about the forward progress of melanated people. That's not to be confused with what we say, which I've said this morning a few times, melanated African descendants. So for us, there are 6 factions of melanated African descent. Some of us sell drugs to our people. Some of us pimp our people. Some of us prostitute our people. Some of us pretend to be something that we're not to take advantage of our people. Some of us will use our skin color to get elected and do nothing for the people. For us, in my organization, those are not Black people. Those are melanated people because they don't think Black. So if you have been blessed with melanin, but your behavior is destructive to people who look like you, then for us, you're not Black. You're simply melanated. So we got to understand that there is a difference. Just because they look like us doesn't mean that they are us, because that's how we get infiltrated. And that's how that happens. So we're saying that we have to understand the importance of local politics, and then we have to mobilize and organize and take over spaces where we're the majority for sure. But if we're not the majority, we have to have political leverage, which means we still got to mobilize and organize. And then lastly, last but not least, is would be the think tanks. Because none of this is going to happen if we don't have people, Black people, who are thinking about making it happen and who know how to make it happen. This is a nonstop, continuous Black survival thing. So if you have an interest in creating a local agricultural system whereby we can feed ourselves, if you have an interest in or expertise in spiritual development and understanding, if you have an interest in creating a culture, and that's a lot, so we can move ourselves forward. If you have an interest in developing our youth, an interest in business, running one, starting one, expanding what you have, taking advantage of opportunities, if you have an interest in political mobilization and organization, if you have expertise in anything, and you want to lend your expertise, your intellectual capital, to a group of Black people who have the same interest in intellectual capital, then we need you to be a part of this event. It's free, it's online, it's not until the last weekend of this month. Project 2025 was about, I say was because they're now rolling it out. It was about, now it is about giving 15 national departments, giving Trump control of those national departments. 240 plus white think tanks came together to create this version, which is the 5th version of Project 2025. The think tanks that we currently have are to push back against the think tanks of those 15 departments. Because we have to understand, A, how can these departments benefit us if we are mobilized and organized properly? And B, how do we create a local version of that national think tank? Because we still got to do all this stuff locally here in the greater Houston, Texas area, but not just in Houston. We have to do them in predominantly Black spaces all over the country. But you can't do that if you don't have a think tank in place of people thinking about how to make these things happen. So if there's a national agricultural think tank, a part of Project 2025, which there is, we got to have a, what I call from the grassroots. We got to have a Black from the grassroots think tank dealing with agriculture. If there is a national Department of State think tank, which there is, we got to have a national Black State Department think tank. If there is a national security department, which there is, then we got to have everything that they have. We have to have our own version of it, but that version has to come from people who are Black as opposed to just being melanated. So the question on the flyer is, as government turns its back, what must we prepare for and do? And what we must prepare for and do is to, quote unquote, leave the world behind. That doesn't mean go off somewhere and be in your own space and do your own thing, although we need that as well. That means that you have to be able to be self-sufficient as much as possible and be able to stand on your own 2 feet. If we don't understand how to govern ourselves, if we don't understand how to feed ourselves, we don't understand how to protect ourselves and employ ourselves and keep ourselves spiritually rooted, how to develop our own youth, how to educate it. If we don't understand those things, then we will have no choice but to allow an enemy system to do this thing, do these things for us. So leave the world behind is about leaving an enemy system behind and developing your own thing, which is really the only option we have. So this 2-day conference is about getting our people to understand the writing on the wall, to understand the reality as it is, and to analyze this movie from a Black perspective, which is how we analyze everything, and then confer, have a conference on all these things that we got to put in place. As Brother Malcolm said, which is the quote at the bottom, close to the bottom, a new world order is in the making, and it is up to us to prepare ourselves that we may take our rightful place in it, end quote. If that quote isn't timely, I don't know what is. And if you want more information about the conference, how to register, how to be a part, you can go to our website, growforcare.org, GROW, the number 4, CARE.org. Click on events, leave the world behind, and go from there. You could, I want everybody, of course, to be a part of the whole thing, but that's not realistic. So if you can only be a part of certain aspects of the conference, certain things that you have interest in, certain things you want to work with, some things you want to learn more about, then register for that particular conference. Each conference subset is only scheduled to be, I think, an hour and 15 minutes. Our speakers are going to speak and share for 20, 25, 30 minutes and present, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. These subject matters, these topics are extremely important. They're not going to go away. It's conversations that we have to have, and we're not saying that it has to be done our way. What we want is people who are already doing these things in these spaces so that we can connect with them and help them build, help them be bigger, stronger, better, so that we can collectively move forward. So if there are people who are already doing these things, which I'm sure there are, we want to know who they are so that we can connect and continue to move forward. This is not about doing any of this stuff our way. All we're saying is that these things need to be done. And if we can't find people who are already doing them, then we are most certainly in a position to lead the development of them moving forward, because we already have the leadership and the think tanks in place that we're building. But we're nowhere near being complete. So again, if you have interest in our expertise and you want to be a part of one of our think tanks, let us know. As of right now, we have, on paper, we have all 15, but actively moving, we only have 11. So we need people to lead the other 4 as we develop them moving forward. So that is what we are focused on doing. The country is most certainly changing. Those changes are not pro us. And if we don't put something in place that is pro us, that will allow us to be self-sufficient, to do our own thing as we see fit, to be safe, to be at peace, to be strong, then we're simply going to lose. And it won't be a lost battle this time around. It will be a losing of the war, because there will be no way to come back from that. The opportunities, as General Sun Tzu said, Emperor Sun Tzu said, in the midst of chaos, there is opportunity. So there are extreme opportunities in this thing, but we're only going to be able to take advantage of them if we are mobilized and organized, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what we've always been trying to do. So on that note, but I'm going to assume you have no questions. Will, you good? No questions?
Well, yeah, I got one.
Okay.
I'll take the question.
All right.
As far as patronizing black in the black community.
Yep.
You mentioned cell phone.
Yeah.
Well, basically most cell phones
Mm-hmm.
companies, either Hispanic, there's none that I know of.
Yeah.
That are black.
Sure.
So, that's gonna be something that I could be wrong, that's gonna be important to support.
Yeah.
Our own,
At least initially.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I think there may be 1 or 2 predominantly black owned grocery stores.
Mhm.
And I think predominantly black, it's like you said, predominantly black, so it's gonna be kind of hard.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, for us to support our own.
Yeah.
Because it's really not.
It don't exist. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is,
How do we,
okay, so amen, and you're 100% correct. And that's why I said it's one thing to say shop black, something else to actually do that when black don't exist.
right,
And if we're being honest with ourselves, how much shea butter do we really need? And the shea butter business is not a grocery store. So you're right, brother. The things that we need, we don't have. But if we're not thinking about how to get them, we'll never have them. So if we know that the only reason Fiesta, Kroger, HEB, mom and pop shops, whatever they might be called, the only reason those grocery stores exist is because we shop there. So if we can find enough black people, and I have yet to believe that anything we need, we don't already have, we just don't know it because we don't talk to each other. I am supremely confident that there are Black people in this city, the fourth largest city in the country, that know how to run a grocery store. We have to find them, connect with them, and then learn from them. How do we do this ourselves? How do we create this thing ourselves? And even if it has to be a partnership starting out, where we got to partner with a larger corporation, we got to partner with an Hispanic corporation. I researched the Aldi grocery store chain, and it doesn't cost a lot to start an Aldi franchise. Maybe that's where we start, and we go from there. At least the ownership will be quote unquote Blacker than a Fiesta or a Kroger or an H-E-B. And I love H-E-B. But we have to get to the point whereby we are owning and controlling more of these systems, and not allowing everybody else to control them. And the same thing for the cell phones. And this is why we have a think tank that focuses on international business, because if some of the parts that we need to create our own cell phones, if they're coming from Africa, and we can have a relationship with Africa, which we got to have anyway, then that's something that we got to start working on now. So maybe in a year or two, we can actually make that move to have our own cell phone. Everything has to start from somewhere. Understanding that we're behind on everything, right? And because we're behind on everything, you're never gonna catch up if you don't first start thinking about how to catch up. So what we're saying with the event is, it has to start somewhere. And if we don't start it, it'll never start, because nobody else is gonna start it, because nobody cares. So you're right. How do we do that? And it's impossible right now today. But that doesn't mean we can start putting things in motion by which this time next year, it is possible, because we've done it. So what we're saying is that everything we need, we absolutely must start preparing ourselves to get it, because we're talking about our survival. We're talking about trying to prevent our people from becoming a permanent underclass, trying to prevent our people from being thrown back into some form of slavery, because we don't have any power to stop it. So you're right, 100%. And that's why this event is so important, because at some point we got to start thinking about, okay, how do we do this? And then how do we make it so? Any more questions? All right, so on that note, again, Grow for Care, GROW4CRE.org, events, leave the word behind, and go from there. We love you guys to be a part of the event. This is a must do across the board. And again, when I was in the super neighborhood meeting, my brother Travis McGee, awesome community leader, awesome community advocate. He's been over a Civic Club. I think I asked him yesterday for, I think he said 20 plus years. This brother is in the community. And we have a lot of people, not a lot, we do have people in the community who care, obviously. But we have to not just focus on getting other people to do right by us because they're supposed to. But we have to also answer the question that the brother asked in the back of the room: how do we create our own? And for us, we have to do both at the same time. We have to get people to run the civic clubs, get people to run the super neighborhoods, get people who care about doing the local stuff that still needs to be done, while also focusing on creating our own moving forward, because we got to have that anyway. When you guys have a minute, go to the Google and do a little bit of research on the organization of the Mormon Church. Most people think that it is just a church, but if you ever see their organization chart and you see how many businesses, how many industries they're involved in, what they control, is going to give you a different perspective of the Mormon Church. And we have to be the exact same way. If they can run Salt Lake City, Utah, if they can run that municipality, then we are the majority in over 1,700 spaces in this country. We can do the exact same thing, but only if you're thinking about doing that and you have a team in place that's ready, willing, and able to make it so. And what we're saying is that we know those persons exist. We just got to find them. And then we have to create a system by which we're raising a new kind of Black child to take over what we do. So on that note, thank you guys very much. God bless, and we will see y'all next Thursday. Have a good one. Bye-bye.